Welcome to This Explainer. I am absolutely thrilled to jump right into today's deep dive. We're doing a studio video overview of a hyper-local logistics issue that has just completely collided with year-to-date headline news trends. We're talking about high-stakes geopolitics here. Specifically, we're looking at the tension between Washington with the Trump administration's aggressive trade posture regarding USMCA and CSMA tariffs and Ontario Premier Doug Ford's administration. And the wild part? This massive friction all centers around something that seems completely mundane: municipal solid waste, or MSW disposal shipped right across the border. Today, we're going to look at the data, the software, and the physical reality of the Great Lakes Waste Corridor. We'll see exactly how technology is acting as a bridge between chaotic trash and high-purity industrial assets. Let's get into it. To start, I want to immediately ground us in the sheer scale of the situation with one very specific number: 3.46 million. That is the staggering tonnage of Canadian municipal solid waste shipped across the border from Ontario, Canada, over to U.S. Michigan landfills every single year. Just picture a continuous, never-ending convoy of heavy transport trucks rolling over the bridge from the Greater Toronto Area into Detroit Metro day in and day out. So this isn't just a trickle of trash, right? It's a massive industrialized flow of raw material that has completely intertwined the economic and environmental fates of a Canadian province and a U.S. state. To put that into perspective, a massive 14.35% of all waste disposed of in Michigan landfills originates from Canada. When you realize that roughly 1 in every 7 pounds of garbage buried in Michigan actually comes from across an international border, well, you start to understand the extreme vulnerability of this whole system. Entire business models on the Michigan side absolutely rely on this steady flow. And on the Ontario side, the province has effectively outsourced its waste management to the U.S. Midwest. It's a highly imbalanced, symbiotic relationship built almost entirely on the economic arbitrage of cheap landfill fees. Okay, let's look at our roadmap. We're covering 1, the Great Lakes Trash War; 2, Ontario's looming capacity cliff; 3, the 905 Wood Digital Refinery; 4, Edge AI and provenance data; and finally 5, the Sentient Biocarbon Bridge. Section 1, the Great Lakes Trash War, a geopolitical squeeze. So this is where the everyday act of exporting trash gets totally swept up into international trade policy. We are imparting the facts here, and the data paints a picture of a rapidly tightening vice across current headline news trends. On the U.S. side, Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer proposed a massive 1,288% fee hike, looking to bump landfill tipping fees from historically low 36 cents all the way up to $5 per ton just to deter out-of-state dumping. Meanwhile, at the federal level in Washington, the Trump administration's aggressive trade posture and USMCA tariffs bring severe complications, culminating in the FERT of 50% Section 338 tariffs on Canadian wood and paper by August 2026. Then, over on the Canadian side, Ontario Premier Doug Ford's administration has a 2026 phase-out of commercial waste collection that pushes even more volume into private hands. It is literally a perfect storm of legislative, financial, and trade pressures squeezing this one cross-border corridor. Section 2, Ontario's looming capacity cliff. Now, you might be wondering what happens to Ontario if they can't export. The severe domestic consequences are monumental. The province just cannot rely on the old MSW disposal methods of shipping across the border anymore. Right now, Ontario relies heavily on Michigan's extremely cheap 36-cent tipping fees. If that border remains open, Ontario exhausts its domestic landfill space by roughly 2037. But, and this is a huge but, if the border closes due to these geopolitical trade wars and CUSMA tensions, Ontario hits a hard physical wall. Their total domestic landfill capacity completely depletes by the year 2034. That is just years away. The province would literally run out of places to put its trash, accelerating a full-blown logistical crisis. The old model of digging a hole and dumping material is just reaching a terminal endpoint. Section 3, the 905 Wood Digital Refinery. So how exactly do you solve a physical waste crisis compounded by international trade wars? Well, you digitize it. Contrast the chaotic, muddy reality of a local dumpster with the elegant, high-tech solution we're analyzing today, the 905 Wood Digital Refinery. This isn't a traditional dump service. It operates as a highly specialized digital data processor. Let's do a deep dive into the SaaS application service workflow. It starts right at the intake point with a request for quote, initiating an AI visual scan of a massive 144-yard walking floor trailer to classify the chaotic construction load. Next, the material undergoes hyperspectral verification at the hub to screen for invisible heavy metals, like arsenic. Third, the system utilizes what they call explainable compliance, querying local environmental regulations to actually validate the diversion. And finally, the digital refinery application workflow generates a specific UI/UX output, a legally binding PDF certificate of origin. It completely transforms a physical liability into audit-ready, verified documentation features. Section 4. Edge AI and provenance data. You have to ask yourself, how do you execute this complex transborder compliance triage right at the point of generation, like on a blistering hot or freezing cold demolition site in southern Ontario? You bring the intelligence to the absolute edge. 905 Wood deliberately utilizes the cutting-edge Google Pixel 11 Pro running the Android 17 OS with the Light RT AI stack. Operationalizing this specific hardware allows for the intense edge computing required for this level of compliance. The custom chips prioritize thermal stability because, when you're running continuous computer vision models on a sun-baked industrial site, standard hardware will just overheat, throttle, and crash. This edge pipeline is built to handle continuous duty cycles without thermal throttling, locked down with a hardware root of trust to ensure the data is cryptographically secure the absolute second the image is captured. And this brilliantly illustrates the big shift. Under the old model, a bin of wood was chaotic construction waste, just a physical, uninsurable liability destined for a Michigan landfill. But under the new model powered by Edge AI, 905 Wood's value shifts entirely to the DMRV, or Digital Measurement, Reporting, and Verification Provenance data cut. The real product isn't the physical scrap wood, it is the high-fidelity provenance data layered on top of it. This data, handled by their sauce application service, is what allows the material to meet the pharmaceutical-grade purity requirements of the global Puro.Earth biocarbon market. It's the data, not just the wood, that secures Ontario's industrial leadership in the emerging Canadian circular bioeconomy. It's a real game-changer. Section 5. The Sentient Bridge. The financial arbitrage built here is absolutely massive. The digital refinery application UI/UX output isn't some flashy dashboard. It generates a stark, brutalist, high-contrast, black and white PDF document. Why? Because it's engineered for industrial legibility to survive legacy 2 a.m. faxes at border crossings. This single sauce platform output handles the strict verification and compliance required to legally shield the transport. It proves the material is a domestic good to dodge that 40% USMCA and QSMA transshipment penalty. It proves diversion to zero out Ontario's $60 per ton Circle landfill levy. And it provides the verifiable chain of custody to mint highly lucrative carbon dioxide removal certificates. Guys, this is algorithmic financial optimization of physical trash. This crucial point is captured perfectly in a quote from the source material. The sentient bridge between chaotic construction waste and the pyrogenic biocarbon market. That pretty much summarizes the entire explainer. Software and Edge AI have completely redefined the industrial waste sector. They haven't just optimized a trucking route, they have literally transmuted a geopolitical liability into a verified digital commodity that feeds the clean economy, specifically targeting the high purity requirements of the Puro.Earth methodology. So we've seen how a single operation using advanced consumer hardware running AI can sidestep multi-billion-dollar tariffs, dodge punishing state taxes, and feed a high-tech bioeconomy, entirely reshaping the Ontario-Michigan corridor. It leaves us with one massive question. If a smartphone running Edge AI can effectively defeat an international trade war, what other chaotic global supply chains are about to be completely rewritten? Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer. Keep learning, keep questioning, and I'll catch you next time.